Since they were now beyond the boundaries of Camp Half-Blood, the mist transformed Tyson's face to look like he had two eyes again. So he didn't have to worry about scaring any mortals in the real world. Seems kind of unfair that the mist can do that for Cyclopes and not do the same for a satyr's goat legs, don't you think? As they climbed higher levels and made it as far as halfway around the ship, they realized they didn't run into a single soul. The place felt like a ghost ship. Sure, it was the middle of the night, but still, not a sound. "Oh no, bad smell," Tyson said. "What? I don't smell anything," said Annabeth. "I think Cyclopes have better sense of smell, kinda like satyrs," Percy said. "Okay, so what do you smell?" Annabeth asked. "Something bad," Tyson said. "Okay, that clears things up," said Annabeth. Percy sensed something of his own. Just that same usual demigod instinct letting him know something wasn't right. "We should really find a place to hide," he said. So they kept walking until they found at least one cabin on level 9 which was surprisingly open and had nobody inside. There weren't any luggage bags anywhere or any sound in the bathroom, and the place looked organized and cleaned up, so it seemed as if no one had recently rented it. That was weird. "You guys can have this one. I'll look for my own," said Annabeth, "and please don't touch anything." "You think this place is enchanted?" Percy asked. "I don't know. Just please be careful," said Annabeth. And she closed the door and left. When they opened their bags, it seemed as if Hermes really did think of everything. Extra clothes, toiletries, drachmas, and even plenty of mortal money. Even Tyson's tools were packed for him, which made him real happy. So he took out the metal parts in his pockets and started tinkering for a project which he wouldn't say a word about. Seconds later, Percy crashed out on the bed and had his worst dream yet. Actually, it was in a place Percy had been before, last year on his quest for the Master Bolt. He was standing on the edge of a cliff in a pitch-black cavern looking down into an endless pit. The entrance to Tartarus. He heard an old and cold and dark voice coming from down there, which he recognized from before.
"Well, well, well, if it isn't the young hero making his way to another great victory. Don't let me stop you. Perhaps this time when you fail, you'll wonder if it's worthwhile slaving for the gods. How exactly has your father shown his appreciation lately?"
Then Percy woke up to an Australian voice on the intercom. "Good morning, passengers. We'll be at sea all day today, and the weather's perfect for today's pool party. And let's not forget our special guest disemboweling later today." Did he say bowling practice? Percy asked himself. Boy, did he sure hope he was right. After he and Tyson got dressed and met up with Annabeth, they were surprised to see people walking around. Nobody looked at them or asked who they were, and weirdest of all, every one of them had blank expressions, so something definitely wasn't right. "I think they're all in some kind of trance," said Annabeth. Then they heard a reptilian voice coming from around the corner.
"6 more joined yesterday."
They scattered to the nearest place they could use for hiding. The girls' bathroom.
"Yes," said a second voice, "soon we shall be strong."
"We gotta get out of here," said Annabeth. Then Percy heard a voice that chilled him more than any monster. "Only a matter of time. Don't push me, Argreus!" It was the voice that Percy could never forget. The voice of Luke Castellan.
"I'm not pushing," said the deeper voice. "If this gamble doesn't pay off..."
"It will pay off," Luke said. "They'll accept the bait. Now let's get back to the Admiralty Suite."
"Leave now?"
Tyson whimpered. "We can't," Percy told him. "We had to find out what Luke is up to," Annabeth agreed. "And if it's possible, we're gonna beat him up, chain him up, and drag him up to Mount Olympus." They went back to their cabins and grabbed their stuff. They definitely didn't want to stay another night on that ship. They followed the "You Are Here" signs to find their way to the Admiralty Suite, which was on Deck 13. On their way, they heard voices coming from down the hall, again, and all three of them hid in the supply closet. "Did you see that Ethiopian dragon in the cargo hold?" said one of the voices. Then they heard a more familiar voice. "I hear they got two more coming," he said. "That's Chris Rodriguez, from the Hermes cabin," said Annabeth. Percy could recall meeting Chris at camp last year. He wasn't really a son of Hermes, just another one of those undetermined kids whose godly parent never claimed him. Then Percy remembered he didn't see Chris at camp at all during the summer, but what was he doing here? They kept walking down the hallways and into the inside of the ship. Percy started to feel a cold and unpleasant presence letting him know they were closer to Luke. Eventually, they came in front of two twin doors that looked like the entrance to something important.
"Stop!" Tyson whimpered. "Voices inside!"
"You can hear from that far?" Percy asked. Tyson started repeating the voices he heard. He heard and repeated multiple sentences like, "The prophecy ourselves," and "The fools don't know which way to turn." And other things like, "You think the old horseman is gone for good," and "They can't trust him with the skeletons in his closet. The poisoning of the tree was the final straw." "Stop that, Tyson," said Annabeth. "That's just creepy. How do you do that?"
"Just listening,"
Tyson answered. Then, slam! The two doors swung open and two bare-headed monsters stood right there, pointing spears at the kids. And in between them, there he stood, Luke Castellan.
"Well, if it isn't my two favorite cousins," he said. "Come on in."
Luke threw himself on the couch and made himself comfortable.
"How you loving my quarters?" he asked. "Quite nicer than the Hermes cabin, huh?"
It had only been a year since Percy last saw Luke at camp last summer when he tried to kill him, but he seemed so different and so much older now. He was wearing dress clothes, and his hair was done nicer. Over the past year, Percy could only imagine running into Luke a bunch of times since he tried to kill him before, but now that they were face to face for real, Percy couldn't help but feel so nervous. Percy noticed leaning in a corner near Luke was a sword he could recall seeing Luke use at camp last year. He was told the blade was made of two different metals. One side of the blade was a type of metal created by the gods called celestial bronze, like Percy's sword, and the other side was made of regular mortal steel. This way so the sword could kill monsters and humans. But what was even more surprising was a 10-foot-long golden casket on the opposite side of the room. Despite the warm sunlight from out the window, the casket seemed to make the room feel cold.
"Oh, I'm sorry," said Luke. "Where are my manners? This is Argyus and his twin brother Aureus. Suppose you heard of their story. And did I mention they like half-bloods?" "For lunch," said Argyus.
"So," Luke said, "you survived another year.
How's school? Or how's your mom?"
"You poisoned Thalia's tree," Percy said.
"Okay, yeah, I did. So what?" Luke sighed.
"How could you? And after she saved your life, yours and mine, how could you dishonor her like that?" Annabeth said angrily.
"I didn't dishonor her. The gods did,"
Luke said. "If she were alive, she'd be on my side. You'd be too, if you'd understand. I understand that you want to destroy the camp. You're a monster," said Annabeth.
"The gods have blinded you, Annabeth," said Luke.
"We don't need them. Just imagine life without them. Together we could start a new world, and we could use your intelligence, Annabeth." "You mean because you don't have any of your own?" Annabeth argued. "I know you, Annabeth," said Luke. "You deserve better than to tag along on some hopeless, useless, and meaningless quest that won't actually get you anywhere. The camp will eventually be overrun by monsters and be destroyed. And if any of the campers do survive, they'll have no choice. They will join us or join together in extinction." "I'm also quite surprised at you, Annabeth," Luke continued. "You out of all people choosing this pathetic excuse for company? A Cyclops? And you tell me I was the one dishonoring Thalia? Stop it, said Annabeth as she started to cry. While she buried her face in her hands, Percy was now confused of what Luke was talking about, but there was no time to worry about it. Leave her alone, he said, and leave Tyson out of this. Ah, yes, your father claimed him, so I've heard, Luke said. Now that was surprising. How did you know about that? Percy asked. Oh, I know everything, Percy, Luke answered. This monster's your brother. You're taking a quest to find the Golden Fleece, which was really Clarice's. And what were those coordinates again? 30, 31, 75, 12? Yes, I have a couple of friends of my own at camp who still like to help me. You mean spies? Percy said. Come on, Percy, Luke said. You think Poseidon cares at all about you any more than he does this monster? The gods are using us. They always were. You have any idea what your 16th birthday holds? Did Chiron ever actually tell you what the Oracle's prophecy was about? My 16th birthday? Percy thought to himself. He did recall Chiron telling him about a prophecy he received from the Oracle years ago. Percy wasn't told what it was about exactly, but he knew he was part of it. If it had something to do with his birthday, to him that sounded scary. I know what I need to know, he said. Like, for instance, who my enemies are. Then you're a fool, Luke said. Percy's no fool, Tyson shouted. Before he could try to charge Luke, he got hit in the back and stumbled to the floor. Sorry, Cyclops, Luke said. Looks like my grizzly friends together are too strong of a match even for you. Luke, please, just listen, Percy said. Your father sent us. Don't even mention him, Luke growled. He told us to come here, Percy continued. We thought it was our ride for our quest, but he sent us to find you. He told me he wouldn't give up on you, no matter how angry you are. He abandoned me, Luke said. I want to see his throne crumble to pieces along with the rest of Olympus. Maybe you can tell him that the next time he talks to you instead of me. And don't think it won't happen, because the more Half-Bloods join us, the weaker the Olympians get, and the stronger we get. And also the stronger he gets, Luke said as he pointed to the golden casket. Wait, said Percy, you don't mean... He's reforming, said Luke. Little by little, we're calling his life force out of the pit. With every recruit who pledges our cause, another small piece appears. That's disgusting, Annabeth said. Shut up, Luke told her. Your mother was born from right out of Zeus's skull. Soon there will be enough of the Titan Lord's remains so that we can make him whole again. You're insane, said Annabeth. Join us, Percy, said Luke. Just think about it. Your mom could never have to work again. You could buy a mansion. Annabeth, you could build a monument that could last thousands of years. Go to Tartarus, said Annabeth. Then he pressed a red button on a remote, and 2 human guards armed with nightsticks walked in. They had that same blank expression the other mortal passengers had. It's time to feed the Ethiopian dragon, Luke told them. Take these foolish stowaways down there and show them how it's done. Argreus, stay with me. We have some important matters to discuss. As Aureus pushed the trio down the hallway with the 2 human guards behind, Percy thought about what Luke had said about Aureus and his brother. How they were too strong for Tyson. How they were too strong together. So he thought to himself, what could have been the chances of taking them separately? When they walked out onto the open decks, Percy looked at Tyson. Now, he told him, and thanked the Olympians. He understood. He turned and smacked Aureus and making him fall flat. While Annabeth kicked one of the guards away, the other one had already hit the alarm switch. Lifeboat, Percy yelled. They hopped into the nearest one, and Percy cut the release ropes, and they free fell into the ocean. They escaped.